Well, hello. This is Missouri in winter, and it's not actually that cold, but I did forget to bring, I didn't forget to bring. I thought it was going to be warmer. I'm glad I remembered to bring hats and hat and gloves, because otherwise I would be cold out here. I was starting to get a little cold out here. I saw some cool ducks over there, and I got some pictures of them. So that will be pretty cool, I think. There's like a windy bend in a river or something, or stream or creek. It's not really a river here, but regardless, I'm out here by a lake here in Missouri, and I think it's going to be cool to take pictures here. In the summertime, probably better, because these boats would actually be out on the water. It's a little bit windy out here, so hopefully there's not too much wind noise in the microphone here. But yeah, I'm going to take some pictures around here, and I wanted to tell you about some of the things I've done for setting up my camera's settings to make it easier for me to shoot. I shoot primarily on manual mode. Sometimes I switch to different modes depending upon what I'm trying to do, but usually on manual mode. And I'm shooting with a Sony A7 IV, and I have it set up, I think, so that I can do kind of what I call the camera settings dance as I'm shooting, to adjust for exposure and composition and, depth of field and all of that fairly easily while I'm shooting. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I came out here because I thought these boats looked kind of neat sitting out here. I'm going to try to get some pictures of them because they look kind of funny when they're out of the water, and I think that's an interesting picture. I think it'll be probably more interesting when they're in the water and moored about. There's a bunch of buoys and stuff out there. Try to get some pictures of that too. But yeah, hopefully I can get some good pictures in before the sun goes all the way down behind the hill over there. So. There they go. I wonder if those are the ones I saw earlier. So I've switched to my iPhone to show you this next bit, and I'm just enjoying this view from the pier or the dock or whatever this is. It's really pretty down here this afternoon. But I wanted to show you the camera here. So that's why I've switched to my iPhone, so I can show you my camera. Here it is. So currently, I'll just kind of walk you through the main settings that I wanted to show today, which were mainly how I adjust some of my most commonly adjusted settings, which for me, let me see if I can make this focus a little closer. Okay, so for me, oftentimes what I'm using, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to switch my ISO, my shutter speed, my aperture, and my white balance most often. So currently what I have it set up to do is so that I have this front dial up here, which by default is aperture, and I still have it set up that way here, so it'll control my aperture for my lens. Shutter speed is this second dial from the left, or from the right, whichever way it is, this dial here is set up for shutter speed, which is also the default on this camera. But then I switched this dial here, so by default this one is exposure compensation, which is what it is on like the A7 III. I think pretty much most of the Sony cameras are that way by default. If not, then well, you'll figure that out when you try to use it, I suppose. But I have this one mapped to ISO. So Sony lets you switch what these dials are mapped to, so I can change the ISO on my just by rotating this dial. Instead of going into another menu or something to change what my ISO is, I can just quickly spin that and get the ISO that I need. This dial here also rotates, and I have that one mapped to white balance. So I can spin this to bring up or down the white balance as I feel like is needed for the shot. So that makes it so that I can change all of these settings just by spinning some dials, which for me, that's mostly all I need to change. If I need to change my, the only other thing I really change is the focus dot, or focus, whatever you want to call that, spot. And that's just the joystick up here. I can fly that around the screen and move that to wherever I need to focus on. So I can dial in my settings pretty quickly using the A7 IV by adjusting those dials. Yeah, that's what I have set up. That's mostly what I wanted to show you today, is just how those 4 dials can be set so that you can change your exposure and your white balance without ever having to go to a menu. And I find it really helpful shooting manual mode like I do most of the time. So I'm going to take a couple pictures out here on this dock, and I'll show you those. Yeah, I think this is really pretty out here today. Just let you look at the view again instead of the camera. There's all these buoys out here that have the sun shining on them, and then there's this one that's in shadow, and I want to try and get a picture of that. The wind is making the water a little more choppy. It's not going to be like great reflections or anything, but I want to try and get a picture of this buoy. So it's lined up, and yeah, kind of the subject here, with the other buoys kind of acting as like a secondary subject. The woods behind it isn't super pretty, but it's winter, so what can you expect? The difficulty with it being in the shadow is it doesn't really jump out as a subject, I suppose. There's some ducks over here. Well, I didn't have a fast enough shutter speed to catch them flying like that, but that was pretty cool. probably do a long exposure here with the water, but I don't know how interesting that would look. And all the buoys are moving, so they wouldn't be in focus anymore, which I think is what I want. I think I want the buoys to be in focus. So if they're not, I think that kind of is a problem. So I'm ruling out a long exposure on that basis. Try to do maybe some kind of an abstract here with the wood. I think that might be kind of interesting. There's a couple different colors of planks. Looks like they've been replaced over time. So I think I might try to do that, where there's kind of an intersection of some different colors. I think that's somewhat interesting, maybe. These yellow boat anchors are worn down over time. Got the yellow paint flaking off of it. I don't know if that can be a composition, though. I don't really have a contrasting something to go with it. The water might, but it's not really going to be behind it unless I shoot it from the side. I could give it a try, though. And I lost you. The wind caught it. Hello? Are you still alive? Okay, yep. You're still working. At least a little bit. Well, I shouldn't have stood here. Got the sun right in my face. I've switched now. I've been shooting on the 28-70 kit lens up till now, and I've switched now to my 85mm prime, which isn't, really a lens for doing this kind of thing, but I'm gonna try and use it and get some different framing on some pictures around here before I leave. I think that's gonna be the last thing I probably do. Just take a couple more pictures of these boats, actually, because I think they're pretty cool. The sun's kind of starting to hit the trees, so it'll be a little more filtered light and could be interesting, but it's gonna disappear quick, and then I'll be done for the day. I just realized that I've been taking pictures off camera for a little while, so you didn't get to see me, but hi, I'm still here. I think I'm just about ready to go. Did some interesting things with some yellow barricade things. Tried to frame the dock that was over there with them kind of on either side. So you'd kind of look through, and I experimented at a few different apertures to see if I could get everything to be in focus. Because I think that would look better than the yellow things being out of focus, but I don't really know if that worked. And then there's a tree over there that looks kind of interesting, kind of leaning over and sprawling out some curly looking branches or something. I don't know what that is, but I took pictures of that one as well. And yeah, I don't know, something about the boats here just kind of captivates me with them being behind the barbed wire. I don't know, it feels something. It feels like there's a story there, even though it's like just routine, because this is where they go in the winter because they don't want to be frozen into the ice of the water when it freezes. But it's not where they usually are. It's not where you would normally think to see a boat, and so I just think it's pretty interesting. So there's that.